Hello. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Um, I'm sorry to say that Shafiq Saab was not able to make it because that would be a truly lovely experience for you to listen to him. He's a very, very inspiring gentleman and a thorough professional. So let me, I hope we have the deck. चलें, whilst that is loading up, चूंकि शफीक साहब के बारे में थोड़ा introduction हो गया था, I'll just take a minute while they're loading up the deck to tell you about myself. So by education, I'm a chemical engineer and information systems guy, but I have worked in financial services, starting my career with Imarat Pakistan, moving to Khushali Bank in Islamabad, then back to NIB in Karachi, and then off to Saudi British Bank. I've spent about 6 years in Saudi Arabia and then one again. So ahlan to all of our Saudi brothers and sisters. And then went off to HSBC in the UK where I led several C-level roles. And then decided to come back. हमेशा से एक कीड़ा था कि पाकिस्तान के लिए कुछ करना है. So FBR CIO role came up and I landed back in Islamabad after 16 years and that was 2 years ago. So time has flown and now I'm working with the Imarat Group for the last about 4 months or so as Group CIO. So hopefully we'll be able to get the deck up and running by this time. So just a correction, I'm not the chairman. And definitely not Arslan Saab. So what I wanted to talk about today, let me just start, is what Imarat Group is doing with regards to technology in real estate, right? So real estate, I think if you talk about what my first impression was when I thought about this job was real estate, I don't know. I mean, it always is tainted with, with a certain bias. There's fraud, there's do number kaam, har kisam ki cheez baat hoti hai. So, I was a bit nervous and, a bit apprehensive. But as I got into the organization, started to look at what the organization was, what the values were, how they were using technology to actually make things better, I was amazed. It literally blew my socks off, and I was like, this is definitely the place to actually make a change. So there we go. Thank you. Can we move on to the next slide, please? So just to talk about what our ecosystem is. So we're not just a real estate company. We do quite a bit more. We have our Imarat developments. You may have seen ads for it. You may have heard about it on social media. And along with that, Imarat Hospitality, we signed up with Marriott International to develop hotels for them. We are building 4 of their hotels currently. The plan is to build about up to 10 hotels, the large ones, and then 20 to 30 of the smaller ones across the country. And we also have our grana.com, the real estate app. We have Agency 21, which is our high street brand for real estate agency services. We have a digitized data bank, which is the one that I'm going to focus on, which is PropSure Digital Services. We're talking about the Imarat Special Economic Zones, right at the bottom of the screen. We're talking about Imarat Builders Mall, which is launching this quarter. And I'm super excited about it because I'm a DIY person. And it is a DIYer's heaven. So I hope some of you are also interested in that. Then we talk about the Institute for Architecture, Urban Planning and Building Materials, which is a research institute that we are helping develop, which will help the associated industries along with real estate in Pakistan. We have the Iqbal Institute for Policy Studies, which helps to actually write public policy about how to improve things in the government sector. So that is, a very different angle to how we want to progress, and you'll just realize that angle in just a bit. And then we have the Ali Akbar Foundation, which is an educational foundation. So when we talk about real estate, a lot of people think that real estate is just about buying and selling plots. It's not. So the definition of real estate is there are two parts. The real part is the physical plots, the physical land, and the estate is what you build on top of it. So we work more on the built up areas, but you have to first of all understand where you want to build, what you should build, where and why you should build, what kind of footfall are you going to get, what value creation are you going to do. So that is an important one. So 8 to 900 billion rupees, which is over 20 years, which is 40 billion a year. Investment creates 3 to 5 trillion rupees of value in the in the world. So the value of a country is based on this type of value. So if you create the assets within the country to suit that, that is how you create value for the country. So along with real estate, if you start to build, on a massive scale, there are 15 to 20 large industrial sectors that are associated with real estate. And there are about 20 to 30 of the small to medium ones that are also associated. So it's a ripple effect that happens when you start to build real estate. You start to have this ripple effect across the world. So along with that, could you please go back? Go back. There you go. So creates hundreds of thousands of jobs, has sustained foreign direct investment coming into the country, and that's a lot of that is coming from actually overseas Pakistanis, which are one of our target markets. And of course, at the end, it talks about Vision 2047, and that is where the Iqbal Institute of Policy Studies comes in. We're talking about a 25-year national development plan for the country. If you look back at the economic history of Pakistan, there used to be 20-year plans developed many, many years ago. In the 60s, in the 50s, there were 20-year plans, and then there were 5-year rolling plans that were created. All of that has now been condensed down to just 5-year plans. But whenever we look at larger strategic projects, you will realize that these are, suppose building a dam. It doesn't happen in 2 or 3 years. It takes 5, 7 years to build a dam, but it's a strategic decision for you to go do that. Something similar is what we are trying to build here. Please. So coming over to the next slide is PropSure Digital Services. And this is where we've really added value. This has not been done ever in Pakistan's history before. So we've gone through and spent 300,000 man days to actually do data collection on the ground in all of the planned parts of the country. So along with the 300,000 man days, we've spent 50,000 man days doing data analysis, cleanup of that data, all of it across the country. And we've ended up with one of the largest spatial databases in Pakistan. Each of the polygon that we have plotted has 50 attributes. Now, think about that. Just think about the house that you live in. How far is the nearest shopping center? What kind of road passes in front of it? What is the width of the road? What is the elevation? How does the plot, what is the dimensions of the plot, and how do they actually fit together? Where the road closest to you, is it paved, unpaved? Where's the closest commercial area? Where's the closest masjid? Where's the closest school? Where's the closest university? All of these are attributes which in Pakistan nobody's ever plotted. And this is something that we've done, and therefore we've created this amazing amount of data, which is 4.5 million properties in 30 plus cities. Almost 100% coverage of all planned area, which is just 0.5% of the land mass of Pakistan. So imagine the potential that we have out there for planned development going forward. So our data starts to end up actually looking something like this. So this is the Islamabad Expressway, if some of you are familiar with that. And if you travel on this road, you must have seen the development that we have, Mall of Imarat, on the right-hand side in the blue polygon. And this is all of Rawalpindi on the left-hand side. So this is the type of data that ends up. But what actually ends up is the next one. No, please go back. Don't click it. Yeah, just one click. One click. The next slide should be. Yeah, just leave it. Oh. Yeah, just leave it there. Okay, hold on. So this is how our data starts to develop and show up. So we know within a certain radius of wherever we're trying to look at, what is the existing population, what is the future population projected, and what is the grand total population of residential areas. So this is the level of data that we can get right now. And the color coding is based on residential, commercial, and park spaces and recreational spaces. So again, just one more click, please. Excuse me, one more click. Forward, just leave it. And then if we talk about how much is vacant space and how much is actually occupied and built up space, again, similar statistics. We have all the data that if you're trying to do a certain development, you will know exactly within a certain radius of that development how many houses are there, what is the family size, what is the population that you have, and therefore you can project what kind of footfall you'll have. So if you're building a mall, you know exactly how much footfall that you expect. If you're building a multi-use building where there will be corporates, there'll be residential housing, all of that information is available. Next one, please. So why did we do that? It is extremely important because do you realize that over 90% of all investment coming into the real estate sector in Pakistan actually goes into dead areas? Why? Because a lot of those are not approved in the way they've been done. So we start off with the OADD four-pillar principle and start off with ownership. And where do you get that ownership information? You get it from the local regulatory authorities like CDA and LDA, for example. You get the status of approval from the local regulatory authority. You find out whether it's demand-driven or not. And the previous slides that I showed you talk about demand. Is there a demand in that area? And finally, we look at the track record of delivery of the developer. So that is also important as to whether we can actually deliver to what the need is. Please. And so this is my last slide, I promise. So possibilities for the future, this is where I think it's extremely important. I've had a lot of this discussion, especially since my days in FBR, with quite a few very learned people. And what they talked about was, why do you always focus on blockchain? Now, if you take a look at my second slide, the fundamental building blocks of what you need in the country is a blockchain-based digital identity infrastructure. Now, Nadra alone can obviously build that, and they have tried, they're working on it, and they will actually get there very soon. But if you think about the very fundamentals of what a persona is, you need the membership in the business community that comes from SCCP. You need their banking information that comes from State Bank. You need their taxation information comes from FBR. So if this core infrastructure is built on blockchain, then you can obviously add on health, you can add on education, you can add on all kinds of other information, and that is what I've talked about. You can talk about census and voter information. And then finally, when you expand it into criminal records, you can have a DNA bank for sexual predators, you can have it for heinous crime committers, stuff like that. This all starts to help you create an infrastructure which can drive your economy. And a lot of other countries have actually done this. So I say that, you know, why innovate when you can just get inspired and just, hey, shamelessly copy paste, why not? If it helps us move forward. So that was the last one, sorry. Any questions, anything that I can help you with, I'll be available later on. But thank you very much.